Well, I talk about this all the time with New England, and teams say they're game plan specific. And that's true to some degree. They take a couple plays out of their playbook and they put it into that game, and then a couple different plays out of their playbook and they put it in that game. It's different for New England. New England is a truly game plan specific team. They'll design defenses and offenses for that team that day and run it and do whatever it takes to win. And when other teams try to do that, they can't, because they can't match it. Their guys aren't built the same way. And you saw that to some degree with the Chargers early, where they're trying to play a combo coverage. They cut a guy free. With New England, you have got to give them something they haven't seen. You have to. If Tom Brady comes out and has pre-snap information, you have zero chance of winning the game. Because if he knows what you're in, it's going to the right place, and he doesn't have ego. He doesn't need to give Gronkowski a certain amount of balls. He throws to the open guy. So if you don't have changeups and you can't deal with them bringing out something different defensively, it doesn't matter how much more talented you are. You have real problems.
And it seemed like early on the Chargers' entire hope defensively was get him in third down and see if we can stop him. But they were all third and less than 4. And every time it looked like, oh, James White is wide open at the sticks. So Julian Edelman is wide open at the sticks. For Edelman and White to be targeted 30 times between the two of them, 24 catches combined and 248, 246 receiving yards, like that's pardon me, the game by itself. And then you add, that wasn't even the most dominating part of their game plan. It was what Sony Michel did. I thought you pointed out something really remarkable, see, that it looked to me early on, I'm like, when Sony Michel's in the game, especially when Devlin's in there, they're running it. And when James White's in the game, they're passing it. But the numbers say that is exactly what it was to 90+% of the time. So the Pats were given the Chargers information, and the Chargers couldn't counter it.
Yeah, the Chargers, because they were limited based on injury. Now, they were forced into playing 7 DBs. Last week's game against Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, Gus Bradley gets a lot of credit for that. Now, there's a lot of people that have played 7 DBs against New England, but they didn't telegraph it. They didn't let them know they were going to do it. Hey, I'm getting ready to... So if I was an offensive coach and you tell me I'm going to play 7 DBs, you know what I'm going to do? Not you, Nick, because you got a big nose, but another person's got a normal-sized nose. I'm going to bloody their nose. I'm going to get one of the few fullbacks we have in the league, and James Devlin, all right? He's going to play because I'm going to double-team the offensive line, and then I'm going to allow the fullback to lead up on one of those guys with either number 20 number on or a number 30 number on. And there's no guys in the NFL that want a fullback with a neck roll blocking them, and they got a 20 or 30 number. The eyes of those defensive backs, they're not used to being in the interior part of the defense, so they get confused on play action, and guys get right in their lap. They're not used to playing that version of football. Baltimore couldn't dictate to them because they're limited offensively, what they can run with their quarterback. And New England took advantage of it. This is the most predictable New England game that I have ever remember seeing. Sony Michel, when he was on the field, he ran the ball 82% of the time. Sony Michel and James Devlin, the big neck brace, Sony Michel from Georgia, when they were on the field together, 90% of the plays were running. And James White, ever since he's been in high school, he has been a pass catcher first, not a runner of the football. Not in high school, not at Wisconsin, and not with the Patriots. 97% of the plays, James White was on the field, coach, they threw the ball. So this was the most predictable game-specific game plan. And I can guarantee you, Sunday against Kansas City, they're going to be totally different.
And look, we talk about 7 DBs like it's the 46 defense. Yeah. I mean, okay, they played. Congratulations. How did you play them? What did you do differently? And why are you talking about it so much? Like move on to the next week. And whatever. If you want to come out with something predictable, you might as well just give up, because you've got to disguise coverages. You've got to mix things in. And I'll say it over and over again. And Bob Sutton knows this, because Bob was with me in New York. He was my defense coordinator. He's played against New England multiple times. He understands that. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he approaches it. And Cris makes a good point with those DBs. I've coached DBs for years. When they're up on the line of scrimmage or right behind those D linemen, and they've got to deal with big bodies.
How they've been taught football and how their eyes have seen football and how they react in tight quarters is totally different than being in space, a game for which most of them have played all their life.
Yeah, and not a lot of them want to get in that noisy situation. Those big bodies get up on you. A bunch of them are like, I don't get paid to take on 300-pound offensive linemen. You know, they want to be on the perimeter dealing with the wide receivers.
But, Nick, why was it so hard for the Chargers to even make adjustments or try to make adjustments?
Well, I think defensively, two things failed them. One was the injuries at linebacker made it to where they didn't have much of a choice as far as the personnel that was going to be on the field. And the other one defensively was their two best defensive players, not named Derwin James and Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram, had very, very poor games. Now, Bosa maybe is still dealing with an injury. I know that he came back late or midway through the regular season, but those guys got eliminated. But we haven't even talked about the other side of the ball, because as dominating as the Pats' offense was, their defense was just as good. They had a busting coverage, it looked like, on the Keenan Allen touchdown, and from that moment forward, the defense was pitched a shutout until the game was out of reach. What the Patriots defense was able to do against what I thought was a much more talented offensive personnel was spectacular. They were the ones getting coverage. They were getting pressure. They were the ones that were showing Philip Rivers something he didn't expect, where it was all there were. How many times in the first half they run a zero blitz? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I heard they took it from the Baltimore game plan. No, it was an empty check that they've had since 2000 that we've,
if you get a
line up
formation,
you're gonna get drop 8 or they're gonna pressure.
So like when you say it's an empty check, what you're saying is the defense, they see if there's no running back in the backfield, they're gonna switch into one of two things: either rush 3 and drop 8, or bring everyone and leave everyone in one-on-one coverage.
Yeah, I mean, I heard they're copying Baltimore. No.
It's something they've been doing for a long time.
Yeah, one of the problems the Chargers had too was outside. Their outside playmakers weren't able to get enough separation. New England's DBs were able to negate them, take them out of the. Keenan Allen disappeared in the game. Michael Williams made one play earlier, didn't make many plays. After that, Antonio Gates can't outrun his shadow. I mean, he can't run, he can't threat, and they didn't have a different answer for that. Travis Benjamin weren't able to utilize his speed. So the combination coverages that they had against this wide receiving core going into this offseason, that's something that the Chargers, they'll have to address, that those wide receivers have to be able to play better in that spot.
Okay, Coach, so now the Patriots head to their 8th straight AFC title game. How do you even begin to put something like that into perspective?
Well, to me, it makes total sense. It's like Alabama. They are smart. They work really, really hard on a consistent level. They've got years and years of reps built up with the coaching staff and with the quarterback. And it's just the other teams have a hard time competing. And then philosophically, when you draft smart players, when you build things that can adjust and take away people's strengths, and exploit their weaknesses, this is what happens.
And it's a culmination, this 8th straight conference championship game and the 13 and 17 years that Brady's been the full-time starter, with it, aside from the injury year. It's also based on what they do in the regular season. Now, this year they're a little fortunate. The two best teams in the AFC record-wise were in the same division, but they're only playing one game. It's one playoff win, and they're in the conference championship, because it's after a bye every single year. It's one playoff win at home, and they're in the conference championship. But that's the whole point of the regular season. The whole point of the regular season is to position yourself for the postseason. People say it's to get in. Yeah, okay, sure, it's to get in. But it's really to get in with one of those top 2 seeds, because since 2012 now, every team that's played in the Super Bowl has played nothing but home games in the postseason. Since 2012, every team that's played in the Super Bowl has had either been the 1 or the 2 seed and had a bye. The Patriots have positioned themselves in that spot every year since 2010.
It's the most dominant team or franchise in my lifetime. Now, people might talk about John Wooden and everything. When I was a very, very small child, Boston Celtics and everything, where the league was totally different. They only had a handful of teams. A bunch of teams made the playoff. This dominance in the era where you have free agency, you have the salary cap of $175 million, the ability to be able to get players, the way other organizations can get players, it's the most dominating thing. And it's not just because the championships, the AFC championships, it's because they have won 5 of those. and they've turned those into Super Bowls. If they had just been like LeBron, trips to the finals, no, it wouldn't be as significant. But what they have done, not only getting there and winning 5 of them, man, we should just respect what they're doing, because I don't know if we'll ever see this again.
It's amazing what can happen when you're smart, hardworking, disciplined, and don't have an ego.
Listen, I know what you mean.
It's crazy.
I know what you mean. It's a burden, but, you know, every day I show up, and I'm going to be back here tomorrow to do the same thing. Coach, we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.